And just like that,
We're not
ladies
doing
and
this
gentlemen, we
again.
are back
Oh my gosh.
for another recap review of the hit now again HBO Max show. And just like that, even though the
Mhm.
names on the bottom are in the wrong place,
They sure are. I'm
your
Lucas
guy
today.
Lucas and the amazingly talented Amaya.
Hey y'all, we're back in the wrong boxes, but it's
Is
okay.
we are back to talk about, and just like that, it feels like 2 years
Yeah.
since we ended last season with Aidan and Carrie finally getting together, and then him having to leave her in New York to take care of his son. So
Hmm.
we open up this episode with Carrie writing a postcard to Aidan. And then we skip to a ladies' night out with Miranda, as it seems like her girls decided to take her to a lesbian bar so she can finally find someone to be with. And during this process, Carrie talks about her relationship with Aidan. Would you just think about the opening of this episode from one, her very casually wearing a dress that clearly was about $5,000 to drop off a postcard? And just
Clearly.
them then hanging out with Miranda again, attempting to cheer her up from all the issues that happened with her last season and all the relationship problems that she had.
I, I'm not feeling it. I'm not. I just. I'm not feeling it. The dress. First of all, the pockets had flowers, and then she went to
Okay.
put on the secondary piece of that. I said, "This is expensive." All like,
Exactly.
but all right, whatever. Carrie, live your life. I wish I could live like this, but I don't know. It felt discombobulated to me, like all
Mm,
of the pieces. It didn't feel like we picked up from last season. And in my
yes.
head, I was like, what did happen last season?
Hmm.
And so I don't like that. It didn't feel fluid. It felt kind of
Yes.
chopped, and like we were putting things together, and that didn't sit well
Hmm.
with me.
It felt like they expect the audience to already know, like, but hey, it's a gap of time, but we're right here. And it's like, no, just walk us back through exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Like the beginning part should have been more Carrie with Aidan so you can remember how
Mhm.
last season left off. And
Yep.
instead, you quickly jump from a letter or a postcard that's explained later on
Yeah.
exactly what that meant. And then we jump directly back into the hunt to help Miranda
Yeah.
regain her joy from the divorce, from the selling of the place. But it's like, that's a lot to deal with when the focus should have mainly been on, like, hey, this is where Carrie and Aiden are right now at this
Mhm.
point. So that's why it just feel disjointed in that way.
Yeah,
Because
I
even
agree.
down to the little jokes about, well, the girl that Miranda sees at the bar, and the girl keeps on waving at her, and they're like, well, maybe she's here for
She's
you. Like last time,
right.
she was
Yeah.
looking at somebody. Like it's a nice joke, but it just felt like that's just the wrong place for that
Yeah.
joke.
It felt
Yeah.
misplaced, and for me, I think I was excited for Miranda last season because it felt
Yep.
like she was progressing, right? Like, yeah, you guys were
Hmm.
getting the divorce, and
Yep.
the whole thing with Shay kind of just, but it felt
Yep.
like she was evolving. But it kind of feels like right now in this opening episode, she's stuck because she's so bent on finding love. And
There
for
you go.
me, it's
Uh-huh.
like, well, just live life, like just
Hmm.
live. And I think that would have been a really nice opening, for especially for people in that age group, to say like, you don't
Yes.
have to jump right back into something after getting out of something. And so
Exactly.
I wanted more from Miranda. I wanted more for this episode, and it
Hmm.
just felt like too many pieces and not cohesive enough for me.
There you go. Next up of characters who I wanted more from in this episode, we are reintroduced to Seema here
Mm-hmm.
as she's awaiting a phone call. Now we do understand that she's now in a relationship with someone who's completely overseas,
Mm-hmm.
because we saw them build this last season. But here we get her waiting for a call from him so she could get some positive reinforcement time. That's what I'm going to call
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
here with him. Instead, his assistant comes on the computer to say he's running about an hour behind, which leads to Seema deciding in bed this is the time to light up a cigarette, and in turn,
I knew
almost burns her
exactly
house
where
down and her mattress
this was
down.
going before it even happened. I said, "Oh, she's gonna burn some shit down." Like this is, I already knew it. That's where it was happening, you know. And out of all the storylines, I feel like
Mhm.
hers felt the
As the
flowiest.
episode
You
went
know what I
on,
mean?
it
Yeah,
made so much more sense.
yeah, it did.
But I'll ask you this: what do you think about the assistant answering the call instead of him coming on and saying, "Hey, I'm running a little behind," and he had his assistant do everything instead?
I think that that's trash. You
Hmm.
know, I feel like it, or just shoot me a text. I'm running behind. Can we reschedule? Right. Or like you said, call yourself, but to have your assistant call is,
Hmm.
I just feel like boundaries, you know, like boundaries.
Yeah,
That's just not something I
exactly.
want. You don't know how I'm gonna, like, we didn't know how, she didn't know he was gonna be the one calling because she was obviously dressed for Robbie, you know, and
Yep,
instead the assistant called. So like it's like it to me it's just boundaries, definitely 100%.
exactly. You got to know when your assistant can lend a hand and where you don't want them to lend a
So
hand. And
yes,
clearly, this is a
please.
situation where it was not smart for him to lend a
Absolutely.
hand here. So, the next up we get is Miranda meets Mary. Now, this is the first big guest star on the show
Mhm.
that's happening this season,
Yeah.
as Mary is being played by the Rosie O'Donnell. But here is
Hmm.
a very quick thing of they meet at the bar. Mary asks Miranda, "Hey, you want to go back to my room?" And Miranda, with no issue at all, agrees to go back to the room. Now, did you think her decision to go back to this room was going to end up where we go to in this episode?
No, not at all. And again, just wanted so much more from Miranda. It's really hard because I kind of feel like we had this situation last season
Yeah.
almost with Shay.
Hmm.
So to me, I don't think that they're doing Miranda a service here. I think that having her character play thirsty, essentially
There you go.
2025
Yeah.
words,
Mhm.
right? And to me, I don't like it. And I didn't I would have liked the story to be different if I could say that. Like I didn't like
Yeah.
where it went. I would have loved if this was going to be the case. I feel like it's a missed opportunity
Hmm.
to have a healthy one night stand situation where you can just see
Yes.
how it flows. Like it came, it went, it's
Hmm.
all. You know what I mean? I didn't
Yes.
like that.
I mean, because clearly, and I'm gonna jump ahead from Lisa's scene because not much to talk about Lisa here. This is just her getting out of bed and trying to work on a presentation. Not much to talk about. That was just a reintroduction to the character.
Right.
But next, we do get Miranda waking up next to Mary, and this is where she finds out that she's Mary's first, not
Hmm.
first woman experience, first experience ever. And she's Mary's first experience because Mary is a
Is a
nun.
nun.
Did you think any of that was necessary? Or was that
No.
just,
No. No. I just again just feel so mismatched here with the way that this
yes,
storyline was written and done. I don't know. It just felt weird. Like I could have dealt with just one or the other. Either she's a nun and you can use your
or she's a virgin?
imagination, or
Yes.
she's a
Hmm.
virgin. So I don't think we needed the two stories. I think it was such a clash, you know, because if she's just a feature, she's not going to be here long, then we don't even get to learn more about her story. But even in them telling us what they did, I'm confused. Like, so you jump straight into like nunship.
Yeah,
Like, how does this work? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
it
You
felt
done gave up
incomplete.
the coup de cat after you've been married to the Lord for all
Right.
this time?
And I'm still married to him. And you just wait a minute now. I need to
Exactly.
understand what's happening.
What's going on here? Because none of this is making sense. I think that
It's
was the
not.
issue here. If this is a character that's going to stay around, this can be an interesting story. Just
Right.
because you want to see where did we not necessarily lose faith, but decide that your happiness was more important than what's been installed or instilled in you by you being a nun. Like, if you're gonna go down that route, that could be an amazing story to hear from. But
Right.
if this is just gonna be one episode and we're done, no, just make her a virgin. Like,
Yeah,
the nun stuff adds a different layer that just needs to be explained more.
I
Because if
agree.
it's explained more, we can get a better character, more fleshed out character. Without it being
Mhm.
explained, though, boy, we stuck just having questions on why is this
Yeah.
nun just magically jumping into bed and being okay with it. Like,
Yeah.
like that's the key part. There's being okay with
Yeah,
it. It's
it was
not
too
nothing
much.
wrong with it,
Yeah.
but you being okay with it. We just need a little explanation of why now you're okay with it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Next up, as we get again to the introduction of the ladies, we get Charlotte for some reason being yelled at by a random woman in a park
Yeah.
about her dog attacking this woman. Again, this is just another scene where if we had a little more setup, it would have made so much more
Yeah.
sense. But
Yeah.
because we're just thrown in the middle of it, it almost felt like I was missing something. Like,
I
hold on,
did.
something happened last season,
It did.
and I'm
Yeah.
completely forgetting it happened. But
Yeah.
look, it's not much here to talk about because it's very weird the way they did these quick cuts to these scenes here.
It is, but it's for me, it's even weirder because obviously skipping forward, we now see that this lady she always, she can't even see. She wears glasses. She's an older
Yep.
woman, mistaken identity of the dogs. I don't know. It was weird for me because it almost felt like, and I could be reading too much into it, but it felt like they were trying to do something that didn't land, that it just like didn't hit, right? Because if
Yeah.
you're trying to say that people are oftentimes mistake people, we're just gonna go with Black people, right? And we have these issues
Yeah.
politically that happen where you say you saw somebody, then you realize, well, I actually don't know what I saw. That causes a whole different list of issues. For me, it just felt like rich people problems. What are we talking about
Oh
here?
my goodness. This whole episode is rich people problems
Yeah.
and what it means to be rich. That's
Yeah.
all you get for majority of this episode. And this scene is indicative of this is rich people problems. Because I don't think a random woman's gonna come up to too many non-rich people and yell about a dog and you
Absolutely.
want me to pay for something. They will look at you like you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost your mind.
Yeah,
I'm not
you
paying.
have.
It is a whole different conversation than you get
You're
in
not paying
Rick
for your
Charlotte
dog's
world.
MRI. What is happening?
Why did you get your dog an MRI? If you don't take that dog somewhere else, but we don't do MRIs. I'm sorry, you've lost your mind.
That is the craziest. That's the craziest shit I done heard so far. Because what? No, ma'am. No.
Next up, we get the scene with Seema and Carrie as they're just walking through New York. And again, this is what saves this episode is these type of discussions here. First is Seema telling Carrie about the fire and everything that happened, that she now has a much shorter haircut. But here is more important is that this is where Seema says she's demanded for Robbie to come back to New York to prove how much you want this to work and how much you care for me. And here is Carrie attempting to give advice, and she uses the past issues with her and Aidan and how it was a point there where she didn't know what they were. And it's kind of indicative that right now we can kind of say she still doesn't know what they are,
Right.
but she thinks that problem's in the past. Just what do you think about the demand that Seema made at this point and Carrie attempting to compare it to her relationship with Aidan?
I mean, I understand what I mean. I think that it's very easy to do that in friendships, right? It's very easy for one person to call and say like, "Hey," or be in person and say, "Hey, this is what I'm going through," and for something to come up, and for you to be, for you to compare tastefully, and which I think Carrie did because she didn't really dive too much into it. She just shared like, we had some stuff, we had to work through it. The demand, we've always talked about like people putting what are those things, ultimatums, right?
Yes.
In the picture and how that affects the relationship going forward. I would say it would have been cool had he actually showed up for her, but that's not why he came to New York. And so I think that her saying that, I look at it as she stood up for herself. You say
Yes.
you love me. You say you want to be in this relationship. I'm asking you to show up for me. And whether it came off, as an ultimatum or as like a demand, it's still
Hmm.
ultimately when, now that we've been in therapy for some years, right? It's ultimately saying like, I need you to show up for me because I'm scared and I feel like
Yes.
you're not here and you don't love me. So I get
Exactly.
why she did it. So I'm not, it doesn't shock me. And Seema's been very straightforward these past 2 seasons that
Yep.
we've seen her. So,
Hmm.
it's about right for her character.
Hmm. That's why it made so much sense that it would be her to give this ultimatum.
Hmm.
Because again, if you're in a relationship and you're questioning if the person is willing to show up for you, that's not a
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly.
You living on a wing and a prayer. And Seema said, "What we ain't gonna do,
She said,
what
your
you're not
your
gonna
your
do."
plane has wings. I'm praying you get here,
Mhm.
so I'll figure it out.
Exactly. So I love that scene with her just because we don't get to see that too often. Next up, we
Yeah.
get Lisa in her pitch meeting. We don't get much about the pitch until Herbert calls to tell her he's worried about not being cool, and her letting him know this could have waited. Like I
Hmm.
am in the middle of my pitch meeting. We
Yeah.
could talk about this another day. But as she goes back into the pitch meeting, which is supposed to be a pitch on 10 unsung black
Yeah.
women, and the people in the pitch decide that they would love for her to add Michelle Obama
Yeah.
to this pitch. Even after Lisa interjects, like, you know, she's not unsung. She's kind of sung a lot. Like, everyone knows
Hmm.
who she is. But
Yeah.
we kind of see behind it of her partner Wilts first, and then in a way, Lisa Wilts. Just what did you think about her being more than willing to bend on what her initial idea was, just because she needs this pitch to go through?
I'm not sure if it's even her willingness to bend versus as much as it is a her I want this to go through. I think
Yes.
she's trying to figure out where she's willing to bend actually,
Mm,
because she looks at her partner for reassurance. Her
yes.
partner quickly gives in. She doesn't really say much, right? And
Mhm.
I think it's actually a really good depiction in terms of black women in power, right? And
Mm,
because Lisa is in power, she is
yes.
powerful, but you still
Hmm.
have to answer to even more powerful people. And I think
Yes.
that this is an opportunity for her to really show up for herself, because let's take it a step further. Her conversation towards Chauncey, which is Herbert's new assistant, right? She says
Hmm.
to him very quickly, "You do not get to come over here to me and ask me to help you every time something seems to be on fire. You can figure it out yourself," essentially was what she was saying. And she
Yep.
even had
Hmm.
that attitude with him in terms of, yeah, well, I guess this is a great turnout with the 4 days that, a
I
timeline
got
that I
noticed
was
for it.
given.
Yep. Hmm.
And so I think this is an interesting dynamic, because this goes to show how sometimes, even though it's not a man, she's struggling to have this confidence and to have this to stand up for herself with
Mm,
other women,
yeah.
especially a woman of color, because one of the young ladies was black. And
Yeah.
so it's a good opportunity. I think that I hope they build on this, because it's a great opportunity to build from this and to like showcase what that looks like
Hmm.
and how she can stand up for herself. But I thought it was interesting, although done differently, because we've seen this happen in other
Yes.
shows, right? But I think this is an interesting take on it in terms of how I want to see how they're going to play this out. Because, like I said, I
Hmm.
would love to see that conversation, even woman to woman or woman to women, to say, like, well, this is like Herbert said, like, you're going to let them tell you what to do. This is your pitch.
Hmm.
They wanted your pitch, so that's
Yep.
something that I'm interested in.
Yeah. Very interesting to see exactly what path we go down here. Well,
Hmm.
Lisa has always been a rather confident person. And in
Exactly.
this episode, it feels like the confidence is gone.
Mhm.
And you kind of wonder where has that dissipated?
Yeah.
How are we at this point now with her? But it's going to be interesting to see it down the line exactly what happens here. Next up, we have a very short scene of Carrie, for some odd reason, deciding to say, "I've fallen and I can't get up," as she slips But this is just an opportunity for Miranda to come over to help her. And this is Miranda telling her that she slept with a nun who was a virgin, and it was her first time. And all the Virgin Mary jokes they can make come from this scene. It's
Yeah.
not much here to talk about because this was just a scene just joking around
Yeah. It's a filler
as
scene.
usual.
Yeah.
Yes. But next we do get Lisa as she's with her family and she's telling Herbert everything that happened at work and the things they want her to change. And as you said, this is what Herbert points out to her. Are you going to let them take over your pitch? They wanted you for the pitch. Why would Michelle Obama be included when that was not part of your idea?
Right. Yeah.
This here is just him being as supportive as humanly possible to her at a time where it was clear she needed that support. As she says, when they asked, do you want some wine? And she said, I want all the wine.
Right.
Whenever someone tells you I want all the wine, they need to talk.
She sound like me.
We
I
need to
want
work
all
stuff
the
stuff.
wine.
Exactly. Next up, we get Carrie as she meets up with Anthony as they are going to this ballet thing for Lily. Again, it's something that just feels
Oh,
a tad bit off here,
yeah.
or something that's not fully explained to us here.
Yeah.
As when they all arrive there, this is where Anthony starts his questioning about Aidan and about Carrie's relationship. So I want to stay here and talk about all. This is going to encompass all their scenes together. I think
Okay.
all of them are highly important to talk about here. What do you just think about the way Anthony, as one of her good friends, broaches the subject on her and Aidan, down to him asking her, like, how don't you know when Aidan's coming back? If y'all are in a relationship, how is this humanly possible? And it comes across as aggressive. But was it aggressive or just a friend trying to make sure their friend isn't in a bad situation?
It was aggressive, but he's coming from a place of, I care about you. I don't want my friends sitting around waiting on somebody who's unsure about them, because that's what I would assume. That's how I
Yeah.
get it, right? Like, oh, you're unsure about me, because if you were sure about me, then I would know when you were coming back. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying to see this because I remember where last season left us with Aidan and Carrie. You cannot make your children your life, right? And
There
I
you
think that Aidan is absolutely making him, like, I get that there's a situation going on, but I do also think that you can do both. You have to figure out a way how to. And but I think that Anthony has his right to absolutely ask the question, because this is this is your best, one of your very closest
Best
friends.
Yep.
Yeah. I just think that, especially knowing the history between Aidan and Carrie, he needed to go in a little bit more delicately, because obviously, even though she's not showing it outwardly, you can tell that she misses him, right? She wants to know what's going on, but she's decided to do this because of love, and she feels like, she can wait and it's fine. But I do think that Anthony, he just could have, like, it was aggressive, but it was caring. Like, we know his character enough to know, like, he means well.
Yes. And even if it comes off otherwise, you understand the questions he's asking
are valid.
honestly are questions everybody would ask.
Right.
Like, if you have a friend and they're with somebody and you'd be like, well, when are they come back around? And you'd be like, I don't know. Like, well, wait a minute. How do you not know that? Like, that's an odd place to be in if you're in a relationship.
Absolutely.
So it was just very honest, down to by the end of the episode when he apologizes to Carrie. And he's apologizing just because, hey, if I came across a way, I am sorry, but I'm worried, and that's why I'm this way. Like, that's what you want for if you can't be honest with your friends, who can you be honest with?
Yeah, but I love that. I love that apology, because for me, it's something that I've learned over the years in friendships, but also in relationships. I mean, like romantic relationships, because a friendship is a relationship. I think that all relationships come to a point where you have to realize that an apology doesn't make you less than, right? It doesn't take away anything. It just shows that you're human, but that you value your person, your friend, whoever this person is, enough to say, you know what, yeah, let me come over here and say I'm sorry because that's not what I
Yep,
meant, or or I know I could have done that differently. And it's all a learning
exactly.
lesson, but the growth part is the part that makes the friend, because basically their friendship just
Mhm.
leveled up. He was able to come
Yes.
in and apologize after doing something that he knew. All right, yeah, and I'm glad to see Baker Boy, because I don't know what his name is, but I'm glad to see him still hanging around.
Yes. Hmm. That said Baker Boy.
Listen.
Hey, look, I meant to look up his name. It begins with a G. I want to say,
I'm
mm,
Yeah,
my bad. They don't give him enough screen time for me to overly note it. They didn't even
yeah,
say his name in this episode, which is very odd.
they didn't.
Lily kind of said it at one point, but you don't really pay attention to that aspect of it, but not really much here. Uh,
No.
n- Next up, or the next important thing to talk about, is one of the saddest phone sex scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, child.
As Aidan, who's told, as Carrie points out, that they don't need to have contact, which is another weird thing,
Mm-hmm.
while he's taking care of his child. But he has a drunken night and he decides to call her.
Yeah.
And in the midst of this sweet conversation, it turns down a dark, dark road and a dark, dark path as he asks her to do things over the phone to make
That
him feel
escalated
better.
quite quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, out of nowhere. It was so
Yeah.
sweet, and then it was touch yourself, like I touch you.
Listen,
And
I look forward to the day that we get into, I guess they in their 50s, that three beers get us so drunk that we start
hey,
dialing our spouses to talk about drug sex. No way, three beers got me like this, okay?
oh, oh man,
That is something. That's something else. I don't. You are a piece of work, Aidan. You are a piece of work.
hey,
I
not,
did
not
not listen. That escalated mad quickly because I was like,
yes,
oh, he misses her, and oh, he gets to like talk to her because he hasn't talked to her because, like you said, he told her that they can't have any contact, which
okay, yep,
is weird. But now you're calling me, you're telling me you miss me, and like you said, it started off very sweet and innocent, and quickly ran into X-rated, NC-17, and then quickly into the XXX field, which uh no, I so uncomfortable. So many ways. I
yes.
never want to hear what an older man who's not my man sound like while having phone sex. It's very awkward.
Look here, for some people in the world, and I'm some people, phone sex is always awkward.
Yeah.
Like it is super awkward, and here it just they highlight the reasons why it's awkward. From telling someone to touch yourself, like,
Hmm. Yeah.
mm,
No.
no,
Yeah.
no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just gonna be on the phone. I'm gonna be on the phone.
I'm just gonna be here. I don't need to do anything. I can be a participant, a non-participant participant. Like I'm
Eh,
okay with just, do you need me to ooh and ah, or do you need me to, I can give you some fish because I'm so baffled because, like, how did you get there so fast? He literally went to touch yourself to I need this so bad. And then there was car honking,
Oh man!
and
And then he said, "Get back into it. Get back into it. It's fine.
yeah,
It's fine."
that I can't. I'm
And then it
sorry. I'm
was a
sorry.
lot of forceful grunting, and I'm like, oh god, this is no part of this is romantic. See,
None. I
worst
can't.
shit.
I
Out
Yeah,
of
it
all
was
things that are bad, the
that
worst part
was
of it all is they both have iPhones. Could not just FaceTime you and do
I
this
mean,
instead?
listen, he's already out in the woods of Children of the Corn movie, while his kid sleeps in the bedroom, calling
Oh
his
man.
estranged girlfriend. To me, it was just, again, I know that there's probably a section on Pornhub that, caters to this sort of thing, but the gruntings, it just sounded like you were putting in work to like milk a cow, and the udder was really too rough. I don't know. It's a lot happening
And
that just
it
made
was
me,
so it was I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
I'm pretty
just
sure.
no.
Well, the saddest part is it feels like this call was only made because
Yes,
you needed to get off.
yes,
It was no intention of, hey, we haven't talked to each other in a while. How are you doing?
yeah,
None of that.
none of
This
that.
was, I'm drunk. I had 3 beers and I am now drunk.
Three
And
big,
I need to get my rocks off and I need you to help me to do it. But
listen,
it also comes with an issue of, if that's the case, just say so.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely felt like I felt bad for Carrie because
Yes.
I legit thought the call was going to be sweeter. It started off,
Mm,
well, I don't want to, first of all, he almost did he basically FTK'd, you know what I mean? Fuck them
yeah.
kids, because he was like, I don't want to talk about him while while I have you on
Hey,
the phone.
he threw him out so fast. She said, well, how's Wyatt? I want to talk. We have limited time. I don't want to talk about him. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I would think you want to talk about the reason that we're not together.
Listen, no, it was too much. I really just, and to me, to for us to see that, I'm hoping that they talk about that later in another episode, because it's
Yes.
valid, right? In terms of like, no, just because you're older doesn't mean you get to like gloss over the things that are
Yes.
clearly like no, this is a flag, right? It might not be a red flag. We'll give him an orange flag for this for now, but you
Yeah.
calling me, you're drunk and you want to fake check in, but then really, because it took me all of 2 minutes and 35 seconds to get off after like it was just a lot.
Very quick. Very, very
Yeah,
quick.
very quick.
Yes.
Just no, Aidan, just no.
Exactly. Exactly. And speaking of people constantly reaching out, an ongoing theme in this episode is
Oh,
that
child,
the nun constantly reached out
Mary
to
cannot take a
Miranda
hint.
over and over and over again. What's sad here is Miranda was framing it like the nun reached out because I was your first.
Hmm.
And she automatically saw it as that's the reason. But for Mary, especially by the end of the episode, we realized that's not the reason why.
Hmm.
As Miranda said, I don't want you to be the reason that I leave God. And she's like, oh, I'm never doing that. Like,
Yeah.
that's not even close to being an option. But you helped me realize more of me
Hmm.
in that night that we spent together. So it feels like, well, I'll ask this question. Do you think Miranda overreacted
Absolutely.
to the reach outs here? Because it seemed very innocent. Like, we just had sex. Of course I'm going to. You don't want
I
to go out
think
at all?
it was so many, again, missed opportunity to have just to have a conversation,
Mhm.
right? To maybe gain a fuller understanding of what it was she was looking for or wanted or needed, or maybe she just wanted to kick it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that Miranda took it too far. But also, what's interesting here is that even though it was under assumption, Miranda has done what Mary has done to Shay,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
So for me, it was like, girl, you real judgmental for somebody that just came out of this phase. Um, I think she overreacted. Again, a simple like, hey, sure, and then meet up and you see what the person wants. And then you can
Yes.
decide, you know what, Mary, I am so glad you had a great time and I don't want to take that away from you, but I don't think this is for me, or whatever the case is. But I think that
Yes.
Miranda just she didn't really give it a shot in terms of just anything, because again, she's not even from here, so it's not like you really had to do much.
Exactly.
This is a layup,
Exactly.
like I'm just
A
saying.
holy layup at that. Like, it's there. It's there. You never have to
It
worry
is.
about it.
Exactly. You can just,
But it was just
you can have a ending to the prayer hotline. You never know. Okay, Miranda, you just blowing it at this point.
it's bad enough you done cheated with Jesus' wife or God's wife. That's what nuns are.
Yeah.
Bad enough you've done that already. But now you're trying to ghost this nun. And it's just because, again, She just picked places for you to meet, but she's a tourist. So you
Mm-hmm.
knew she was from out of town. Where do you think tourists are going to meet in New York?
Clearly.
Out of town.
Literally
It's
Times
not like a
Square.
tourist is going to say, you know what, just meet me in Brunswick.
Yeah.
And then we'll meet up there. No,
No.
absolutely not. They're going to hit every tourist spot humanly possible. She went to see Wicked in New York. I told you what she was going for.
That told you what she
I'm going to go see Wicked in New York again. But that's beyond the point. That's what she did. That means she is a tourist. I think that it just pinpointed to me just how close-minded at times Miranda is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Her, she slept with this woman one night, and because of a truth she found out from the woman, Miranda then turned it to mean the most about her. So now you made it, this woman's going to be obsessed with you because y'all slept with each other once. When Murray just meets you again, it's like, hey, you want to do this again? Like, maybe that's just it.
I'm in town for 4 days. You seem cool. I'm trying to kick it. That's it. That's all. Miranda then said she's trying to fall in love with me, and like that's not what the case is. So,
and I think it's more self-reflection because when the shoes were reversed, Miranda fell in love. And now you think everybody's, or you think, I'm gonna make sure I'm saying this right. She's treating her like being a lesbian is a monolith. Everybody has to think the same way because this is what I would do.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do the exact same thing? And it's like, no,
that's not how that works.
Everyone's not the same. Yeah. And I think that was the interesting part of that. Next up, we get Robbie as he arrives with Seema in New York. And here, we're just going to focus on all the rest of Seema's storyline here because this is very interesting.
Yeah.
First, he arrives in New York as they're putting in her new bed. They spend the night together. He wakes up extremely early, as Seema points out. And then he tells her to get dressed as they make a lunch date. But then he says, I need to scout a few locations first.
Right.
And he proceeds to take a woman who we've seen in every Rolls Royce humanly possible.
Into a caravan.
Into a Dodge caravan. Riding around New York to scout out locations. I'll ask that. This is part of what he had her do. For Seema, when she finally got frustrated or to the point where, or the realization exactly what this trip meant, that's when she decided to shut everything down. Is what do you think about her willingness? Because that's one thing we see here in these scenes with Seema is that she's willing to do whatever it takes to make it work.
Yeah.
So it's not like she allowed her guard to come up. We know she didn't want to be in the caravan. She didn't want to eat lunch out of a cooler. She was willing to do all of that.
Yeah.
Just so she could see if you're still going to be there for me. This what you think about her effort and then her decision, like, we've missed everything.
Yeah. That was it. That was the thing, right? You came, had you been able to do both things, that would have been fine. But you were only able to do one thing. For you to say you're going to push it back to dinner and not even make sure, like, hey, guys, we're leaving at this time to make sure that we make it to our dinner appointment, that was where the problem came in. And I agree with her. I feel like I gave you the better part of the day, right? We're talking about he woke up on Egypt time, right? So that means, let's just say he was probably up at 4 a.m. He's up at 4 a.m. You got the whole, by the time 12 comes, that's 8 hours. That's 8 hours. And then I pushed the lunch to dinner, which means technically he could have given that could have been like another 6-7 hours because dinner is usually between 6 and 8. So no, I absolutely agree with her. I think that, again, if you show me you can do both things, I'm cool with that. Oh, we missed lunch. All right, fine. You changed our reservation. We made dinner. Cool. We don't make either of those things. You're not here for me. You're here for yourself, and this is done. So I'm good.
Yes, that was the beautiful part of this scene. Is we don't normally get to see in a lot of shows women decide to put their ego and things aside to see how things were going to work. Seema said, I don't like dating at 50. So she was willing to sacrifice a lot of things, whether it be her time, her comfort, and everything to see if it could work with Robbie. But his focus was strictly on business. It had
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
to do with her. And because it was strictly on business, it had nothing to do with her. I love the realization in the end when she said, you know what? You have the perfect location. This is the end of our journey. Like, I've done all of this for you. I've been here this whole time.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do something as small
As
as saying,
dinner.
hey,
Yeah.
we need to stop this. We can scout another day because I need to take her out. Instead, he kept on feeding her promises. And it's
Yeah.
like, that was probably going to be his goal if she'd have fell for this one, is to keep on feeding you the same promise over and over
Oh
again.
yeah.
If it
Absolutely.
works, I might as well keep on doing it here. But her putting her foot down just was a great moment to show that she's like, I want to be with you, but I'm not desperate. And I don't need to come across as desperate.
And I agree with that.
This is where we will no longer be together. Like, it was a beautiful setup right there between her and Robbie. Next up, we have again, Jesus, Charlotte and this dog and this crazy woman, and now Lisa has got thrown in the mix, as this is where she shows the text message or the Instagram post. That's matters all of a sudden now. Of all the bad mouthing about her dog. And then the dog attacks a doll, and magically she now thinks the dog is evil. Again, at this point, because of the way this episode moves, we're just going to focus on everyone's storyline as we break them up. As she does this, in the following scene, we get Charlotte meeting back up with the park and decide to take Lisa's advice and just pay the woman what she asked for. Only for another random dog to run up to this dog, and that be the dog that attacked her.
Yeah.
But because the woman never had on her glasses, she just pinpointed a random dog and decided to say that you were the one attacking my dog.
Yeah.
I have one question here. And I only ask this question to make sure I'm not special in this situation here. If she could barely see with glasses on, how would she even know what one dog looked like?
She don't.
So how would you be so adamant that, like, it's this dog? How would you know?
Listen, she just wanted somebody to blame for whatever that damn dog issue, back problems, osteoporosis. I don't know, but just figure it out.
Somebody was gonna pay for that dog MRI.
Somebody.
I don't know why that dog ain't have Kaiser, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Medicaid, but
hey, listen, because he needs something.
Because in our households, and when I say our, and I'm, even though I just said that Miranda was treating lesbians like they're a monolith, I'm going to use his statement to treat black people like they're a monolith. Ain't too many dogs going to doctors.
No, not at all.
And if a doctor told us we need an MRI, the first question is, how much is this going to cost?
Because it's going to cost.
I hate to tell you, little Rover, or you know, now
that ain't it.
That ain't it. Look here, little Jabarkis. Your life, I love you, but I don't know if you're worth MRI money.
I don't know if you're worth MRI money, because we know for sure pets are expensive, very expensive.
The point they actually literally have dog insurance now.
Yes, and they do.
Big major carriers do dog insurance tells you just how much money you spend on dogs now. That is absolutely insane.
It is, but also I think that they think that it's just, child, it's too much of a hassle. It's too much of a hassle.
Yeah, exactly.
And ain't nobody got time for that. And she got the right one. Charlotte was the right one, because had she got anybody else, we'd have looked at her like she was crazy and been like, I know you're not talking about our dog like that, because
exactly,
we can fight.
Next up, we get Lisa and Herbert as they arrive at his event here. And this is when she first calls out Chauncey again, saying, this is great for a thing I had to put together in 4 days. But during this event, we also get Carrie as she's sitting, talking to the girls about the call with Aidan, let them know just what happened and the horrible, horrible phone sex she attempted to have with him and what that means for their relationship. But in all honesty, this event was done for one and one reason only here. For people that did not know, Herbert is being played by an actor who literally sung on Broadway in Hamilton for years. He can
Yes.
sue. He can do this.
Yes.
And it seemed like this was the whole point of this hip event, because this was supposed to be the hip event. This
Well,
looked like a regular office thing to me.
it
Nothing hip
definitely
about it.
seemed very, very
Like,
regular to me.
hey, I'm like, you know what, hip? Where is the coffee bar with the DJ? And we could do this again from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and get
That's not
all the people.
that's not what they were thinking about at all.
Exactly. And then next up after this, at the same event with Herbert, which again, event was only thrown together so we could see Herbert sing. And it's not necessarily a cool event to be at. So I'm highly confused here.
No DJ, not cool.
Exactly. As Chauncey said, why is this barbershop quartet singing?
Oh, yes, he did say that. What is he considered a millennial? Child, I can't take
But this is also him realizing, or it helps Lisa realize, as Chauncey brings up his work at the White House, that this may be her connection to Michelle Obama, which then kind of goes against everything Herbert told her by saying, why are you changing your idea for them? This is not your idea. But clearly him having it in the White House is going to possibly lead to her still changing the idea, which is kind of weird again altogether. Next up, we get the nun again, Texas Miranda. But here, this again, we kind of talked about it, but this is just them finally meeting up and the nun letting her true feelings be known about Miranda. And in one of the weirdest things, as we get to the end of this episode, is Carrie, after she already said Aidan told her that we need to cut communication, she attempts to call him, apologizes for not really doing what he thought she did the other night. But she's willing to do it now. And as she's about to get into the foreplay, he tells her, I can't do this now because I'm in bed with Wyatt. Because
I mean, I knew that though.
Night. Yes.
I knew that though. Like I don't know. I already knew the way it was shot. I said, well, he ain't in bed by himself, child.
Exactly.
He ain't in there with nobody sexy, but he ain't in bed by himself. And then I don't like it. I don't like it.
I'm gonna ask a question here. How old is Wyatt supposed to be again? Because
well, I mean, he looked like he about 15, but this is the oldest one, right? I feel like the oldest one was allowed to drive, but not
because he drove the truck drunk.
Right, he drove the truck into the tree, had the accident with the arm and the whole situation. Again, I'm not saying that you don't take care of your kids. What I'm saying is at some point you also need to live your life. So you need to find a way to do both. Does he need to be in some sort of rehab? Does he need to be, something like how do we get him? Yeah, how do we get him on the road to recovery? Because you doing it by yourself is not going to be helpful. Not what I know of in real life.
Exactly. And I think that's the ongoing issue here is that this one, they look like another grown-ass man in bed with you, right? And you've decided that I'm gonna take him in this isolated area and give him treatment. And when he says to her, like, I can't do this now, I'm in bed with Wyatt because Wyatt had a bad night. What does that look like?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah. And if he's having these bad nights, why is he not getting professional help? Like, maybe this is something you shouldn't be doing. It just brought up so many questions. But in the end, this frustration with the situation with Aidan leads Carrie to restart the book.
Yeah.
That was brought up before, where she's still writing it. And now she's writing it again. And I think make sure I get this right, the key sentence is what did this woman get herself into? And that is pertaining to the book and technically pertaining to her relationship with Aidan. I'm just going to ask you, what did you think about Carrie having an aha moment after wanting to be there for Aidan?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, and this is probably going to be hard for some people. I hope this is their last season. I think that it's run its course. While I understand that age does not equal maturity, I hope that they all find a level of maturity, a level of self awareness, of self love and worth, where they kind of stop. I saw something earlier today that says stop making red flags decoration. In some
Mm,
variety of form, I feel like all of them
mhm,
have kind of seen red flags, or they've seen things that kind of you have pause and question for.
mhm.
And for me, I'm just like, if I were 50, give granted you are a widow, right? In Carrie's
Yeah,
situation, and Miranda, she's a divorcee.
divorcee.
I get finding new love, but what I'm trying to understand is, have we not found, have we not learned enough from our past to make sure that we find love in a way that's healthy for us
Mm,
moving forward? So well, yeah, we have to have Carrie writing a book because that's what this is about, right? And
yes.
so I hope that this leads to a bigger epiphany of,
Mm,
what do I want in this new chapter of my life, being a widow, being a divorcee, being a wife still, being a woman who wants to do the documentary, because we have 4 different women right now that we're
yep.
following, right? So what does that look like? How do we get empowered? And not in the term of like not wanting to be powerful and just women doing it on their own, but how do I get to be powerful in these dynamics that I'm in my marriage, out of a marriage, like that kind of
Mm,
thing? Because right now it feels too thrown all over the place. It's like when you couldn't decide on the ice cream, so you got vanilla, chocolate, butter pecan, mint all in the
uh,
same cone. I don't like
yeah.
it.
It feels like, especially in this first episode, which is a very weird thing, it feels like they've lost touch with reality.
Mhm.
Because all of these problems are really problems generated through wealth. Whether it be Lisa, who's trying to put together this presentation, and then you have these other women coming in. I mean, if you would stick more by your guns, you would not have an issue. But
Right.
also, your issue is because, technically, how hard have you had to fight for things in the past
Mhm.
that this is becoming an issue? Same thing with Charlotte. You was willing to settle this thing for a dog. You were willing to pay whatever a dog MRI is. MRI in itself is expensive. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it's as expensive as but you were willing to do it because you have the financial means to do so.
Yeah.
Like, this is an ongoing theme here, and as it pertains to Carrie and Aidan, the weirdest part of this all is this is literally coming close to the reasons why their relationship ended in Sex and the City.
Mhm.
So those same things are starting to show themselves, but she's glancing over, as you said, why make a red flag a decoration? When you get to the point that the person you're with is saying we can't have contact
Yeah.
for any amount
Yeah.
of time, that's
Yeah.
weird. That's extremely weird.
Yeah, I
Or
could I could understand the, like, let's talk after he goes to bed. Okay, cool.
yes,
Not at all. Nothing, Nathan. Not a
are
zip
you telling me
zilch.
there's no free time? Like,
Yeah.
there's literally no free time. You got to be with him 20. If you got to be with anyone for that long period of time, you can't be in a relationship with someone.
Yeah. It's
How can you
problematic.
be committed to someone and you don't spend time with that person?
Yeah.
It's humanly impossible. That's why some of the best scenes in this episode was Anthony questioning Carrie.
Mhm.
Well, do you not know when he's coming back?
Yeah.
That's
Agreed.
a gut punch type of question that someone has to deal with.
Yeah.
And we don't get that with Carrie. The only one that seems to be really understanding of their life right now is Seema.
Yeah.
Seema's very aware of what she's willing to accept and what she's not willing to accept.
Mhm.
Everyone else is still trying to go through it. So even when you say, like, maybe this should be the last season, is if you're not going to give us a huge shakeup in things, at this point, we just watching rich people be rich.
Yeah.
And watch the Kardashians for that. Like, like
For real.
where's the groundbreaking element that we got from Sex and the City? Because I think that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily
absolutely.
it's the realism of a dating scene. And here you get older women and you think maybe we'll get that here. Maybe we'll focus on Charlotte's marriage and see how is that working. Like, it
Mhm.
can't always be happy.
Yeah.
You got grown teenage kids now. That
Mhm.
can't be always happy. I think Rocco's non-binary,
Right.
and then you have Lily. How does their relationship work? Like, it's so many other avenues to explore.
Yeah.
Lisa Herbert has a son that I don't remember seeing.
I don't. Very.
Like, when are you going to focus on these other elements? You've gone
Yeah.
through a whole episode with Miranda with no Steve shown, no,
No
her
Brady.
son wasn't even
Yeah.
shown. But
Yeah.
again, these are things that you hope as the season goes on, we just explore those themes more.
Yeah.
I
I would
mean,
agree.
this episode, while it had its moments that really resonated and really came across as solidly written, as a whole, it just feels at times like it was jumbled, and we're trying to throw everything at the wall to show you the direction that these characters
Yeah.
are going to be going at down the line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, guys, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, wasn't my favorite, but let's see what the rest of the season holds. I was probably a
Exactly.
tough critic, tuned into my inner Lucas. I, but no, yeah, I let's see what the rest of the season holds. Like you said, it had those core Sex and the City elements, and even the first season of And Just Like That, it had that, but it was just missing that other. It was almost like missing whatever holds the binding that holds it together. It just wasn't as fluid as I would have liked it to be. And coming from the last season with so many things happening, I think it could have been presented in a way where it just flowed better.
I wonder, and I just thought about it, could it be because we're missing one woman?
That's very
Who's not
possible.
returned for this season. And her storyline was very pivotal at times. That when you had these type of episodes, her storyline could pick it up.
Yeah, I would
And
agree.
her ties to Miranda helped pick it. It humanized Miranda as a character more.
Mm-hmm.
So now that she's gone, maybe this is a new normal that they're going to try to get into. But again,
Yeah.
we are here for the whole season to
Yep.
see how this works, because it's not like we've not watched shows that started off slow, but then progressed to the point where you're like, aha, this
Mm-hmm.
is why it started off slow. So
Yeah.
we still have hope, as you all still have hope. And just like that, our review is done.
I'm done with
We
you.
would like to
I'm
we would
done
like
with
to
you.
know what you all think. What do you all think about Carrie and Aidan's relationship? Is this something that should continue, or are we going down the path that this is going to end? What do you think about Miranda and Mary in this episode? Is Mary a character you would like to see more of? And do you judge Miranda for her jumping to conclusions on what this situation looked like for Mary? And finally, when you think about Lisa and her project, not only her project, her having to step out and help Chauncey put together these events for Herbert, and how does that look in the future if she has to continue doing that? Now, you could catch us every Thursday after the episode drops on HBO Max. Come here, like, comment, subscribe, get down in the comment section. We'll be here. We'll talk to you about the show. We'll bring up our issues with the show. We'll talk through your issues with the show. We'll do all of that as long as you hit that little ding button so you know when this episode drops.
Absolutely.
This has been another recap review of the hit HBO Max show, And Just Like That. Peace, people.